Hello and welcome back to Godrej VC Live. We're going to be starting our session now. I want to make a quick introduction and, of course, welcome you to the first session of 2024. Before we begin with Apoorva, just a quick introduction about what we're doing and why we're here. Of course, a lot of you might know already. And for those who don't, we are VC Live. It is an initiative by GVCC, which is the Godrej Value Co-creators Club. This club was established, a couple of years ago as a platform for nurturing the architecture and interior design community. So if you've already signed up to be a member, of course, a very warm welcome. But if you are new or would like to know more about GVCC or how you can be a part of this, please see the link in the chat and you can register at any time. The club currently has a membership of over 1,300 practitioners, and it is growing from strength to strength. It is widening its gamut, and we have various community-led initiatives that are happening under the aegis of the club, this being one of them. So this is a monthly series of interactive and educational conversations with experts in the field of architecture and design. So in the first season, we address various aspects of what makes design conscious and how one can design consciously. And in this season, which is the second season, we've been talking about smart living. So through informal and insightful conversations with experts from across the board, as well as young talent, we are hoping to define an equitable and empathic process of creating environments that are responsive to the needs and aspirations of its inhabitants, and hopefully doing this in a smart way. Just to tell you a little bit about who we are the curators of this series. I'm Rinalini, and I have my colleague Sneha. Sneha, would you like to come on and say hello?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Nice to see all of you join in, and thank you for being a part of our first VC Live for 2024.
Yeah. So a quick introduction to Sneha. She's a former journalist, educator, and curator of storytelling experiences. Her focus lies in brand and marketing communication strategy and curating experiences for end users. She has worked with various brands such as Jaipur Rugs, 200 Million Artisans, Godrej Properties, to name just a few of many noted organizations. Of course, Sneha enjoys working with design, luxury, retail, real estate, fintech, and social impact brands, which are very important for her. I, on the other hand, come from the architecture side of things. I'm an architect by training, but I have practiced as a lighting designer. I have taught in university, and I have been in the media business. I was the founding editor of Mondo Arc and Stir. And my current curiosities lie in questioning normative mechanisms in the creative community, which manifest usually through written and curatorial practices such as these. So we are now in season 2. Like I said, we've been talking about smarter living, which in a way we interpret as addressing various ideas of architecture, design, and living that informs our lives in the smartest way possible, right? We have talked about current trends, future projections. We've also touched upon evolving ideas of transformative spaces. So today's masterclass is an interesting but very pertinent one, and it's titled Smarter Design for Building Services. When we think of services or back of house utilities, they're usually pushed back to the back of house, hidden from sight and often sidelined, not only from view, but also in the way they are used and therefore in the way they are designed. So conventionally, they're considered the least important, things like kitchens, bathrooms, storage, utilities, circulation, and various interstitial spaces, which are given very little attention because time and effort is instead invested in other more public and publicly accessible spaces. However, these ideas have been changing over time. Lifestyles have evolved, and the way people now function and live has urged a rethinking of such spaces, or what can be summed collectively as building services for the sake of this particular session. So what was originally considered the back of house is now very often considered front and center. To address this very transformative and transforming perspective and how to design for a changing lifestyle, we have with us Apoorva Shroff of Lith Design. Apoorva, a very, very warm welcome to you this evening.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here. Excited to be here. Can't wait to start this session.
We're
Thank you,
super
Sneha.
excited.
Thank you, Mrinalini. Thank you, the entire Godrej team for organizing this. And also a big thank you to everybody who's logged in for their time. Hopefully it's worth it.
Absolutely. I've got a glimpse of your presentation, so I can vouch for it that it's going to be exciting and very, very insightful. I'm going to give you a quick introduction, Apoorva, before I hand the stage to you. Apoorva, of course, many of you already know her. She is the founder and principal designer of the boutique architecture and interior design firm Lith Design. She pursued a postgraduate degree from the University of California in LA, and her design ideologies are anchored in sustainable and contextual design solutions and innovative use of materials and deep aesthetics. And therefore, all of this translates to inspirations, ideas, and memories that are efficient and practical spatial solutions, which are breathtaking. With over 2 decades of experience, Apoorva's work has been published and awarded widely, and she's got the most impressive roster of clients, which I'm sure all of us know, some very high celebrities. But Apoorva continues to steep all her work in spatial storytelling, which is driven by pragmatic solutions. That's why Apoorva is the most appropriate person to be doing this masterclass today, and we can't wait to see what she has to share with us. I do want to introduce one of her very well-known and poignant projects, Airavat, if I'm saying that right. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of you would have already got a glimpse of her work on her social media. But that particular project is a case in point and is sort of like it culminates all of Apoorva's ideas, if I may say so. And I'm sure that she's going to be talking about it later. So let me, not delay this further, and I'm going to hand over the stage, the Zoom screen to Apoorva. It's all yours. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm extremely flattered with that introduction. Thank you. And not wasting any more of your time, I'll share screen and take you straight to the presentation.
While we do this, I also want to encourage all our listeners and people who have joined in today on Zoom as well as Facebook to please share your comments and questions in the chat box or message us. We will try to weave in your points throughout the conversation. So feel free to talk to us while Apoorva is presenting.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. It is not a full screen yet, though.
Yeah. It is now?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, super. So I'm going to delve straight into the topic and take you to exactly what we are talking about today. So no points really for guessing this, people. It's the Pompidou Center in Paris, completed in 1977 by British architects Renzo Piano and the Italian architect, the British architect Richard Rogers and the Italian architect Renzo Piano, who were then collaborating together at their studio called Rogers and Piano. I'm going to just switch off my video so it's less distracting, maybe. Yeah.
Sure.
The building is designed so that the internal spaces can be easily rearranged, made possible by placing the building services, corridors, and elevators and structural members on its exterior. It was the first major example of an inside-out building with its structural system, mechanical system, and circulation exposed on the exterior of the building. Now, the same thing with structure. This is the HSVC building in Hong Kong and was designed by Sir Norman Foster. Built in 1985, the building was the most expensive in the world at that time. It has a modular design consisting of 5 steel modules, which were prefabricated in the UK and shipped to Hong Kong. Coming a little closer to home, this is Airavat, a structure designed and executed by your favorite architect, me, of course. The site had 360-degree views, and the concept of the architecture is to frame these views. The construction combines the use of metal and concrete, and a conscious choice was made to highlight the power of these structural materials. The image on the left shows a retaining wall built from stones found on site during excavation itself. The center image shows a view of how these members look from the inside of the home. And the image on the extreme right shows you how the concrete and metal come together. The ceiling plays a really important role in the aesthetics of any architecture. Here, as you see, it makes or breaks a project, right? Even, in an average size home, a high ceiling can make the room look really large, and great light is just an added bonus. The image on the left here shows you how we have chosen to leave the ceiling again exposed, and the underside of the metal roof just adds its own character to the space. The image on the right shows you a concrete ceiling left exposed, and the electricals were very cleverly just hidden with that sleek wood member that gives you reflected light as well as direct light. Planning ceilings is easier when the architecture is yours, but you will ask me, how do you take care of it when you are in an interior space, you have existing beams, etc. to work with. So this is a prestige office that we finished last year, and there was a beam right in the center of the reception. Now, one would typically just take the ceiling under the beam, but what we chose to do here is accentuate it by putting a light under it. And as you can see, it really works quite well for this space. It disappears away into the ceiling and looks like an intended design. This is a new project that we have just started working on, and this is of course not our design. This is how we inherited the space, and as you can see, the existing ceiling height here is probably not more than 9 feet. So when we started doing this design, the first thing, of course, you have to work with is the services, right? So this was the first drawing that came in from the services consultant, where, let me highlight to you, there is a beam. I hope you can see my mouse, but there is a beam right here. Yeah, there is a beam right here. And what they've done is place the duct in the kitchen pantry area, but the duct just goes straight under the beam and across into the entire office. What will happen here is that the duct, which usually has a depth of about 9 inches, will bring the ceiling that much further down under this beam. And similarly, if you see here, what they've done is for the boardroom, taken the duct out into the boardroom. Again, the entire ceiling comes down. So what we did actually was spent a lot of time with them. In the boardroom, we put, cassettes just behind the existing beam. So this entire ceiling can actually go up to almost 11 feet. And here, this being the toilet, we did all the overlaps of the beams in the toilet itself. Okay, so the ceiling of the toilets come down, but at least in the reception area, you can go bare minimum. Choose to leave is up to you, but because the ceiling height is anyway coming down to almost a foot to accommodate these cassette units, the beams and the ACs all get done within a foot, and you don't need to go any lower than that. So it takes a lot of effort initially on the drawing board to resolve all these issues so that you can get maximum ceiling height in any space. This is another example of how you can resolve a ceiling where, most of these green buildings have a lot going on in the ceiling with sprinklers, etc. So you can even choose to keep just the air conditioning ducts exposed and then, conceal off all the other factors in the ceiling, leaving it a nice, clean, exposed ceiling look, but yet not cluttered with stuff. Mrinalini, do you want to do questions with each section before we move on?
Yeah, I thought it would be interesting to just talk about, because you are talking about like very specific elements of the building. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about each one of them as you go through your presentation.
Sure.
So if we can start with, like, you spoke about the Pompidou Center, right? Similarly, you've got the HSBC in Hong Kong, you have the Lloyd's building in London, which are all very iconic buildings that are kind of flipped inside out, right? It's one thing to do that architecturally, and then there's another to do it in the interiors. And what's really interesting is that, but you can do it both ways. And more projects are kind of showcasing that and advocating for that in a certain sense. What I found very interesting was when you said that in putting the services outside or in putting them on the periphery, you're opening up more space to do what you can inside, right? Similarly, with your ceilings, you said by putting them on the periphery, you can extend your ceiling heights. Tell us some of the challenges that you face in doing that. Do you think that is it easy for you to convince clients to have that kind of, or to go for that kind of aesthetic where services are exposed, where they can actually see things that are conventionally hidden or concealed? Or have there been cases where it's just, it's a matter of how you put it together?
So actually, clients today are very well informed, and a lot of them have seen very good projects with ceilings exposed. So even private equity firms that are very white collar don't mind experimenting with exposed ceilings. What you need to do is balance that out with a little more detailing with the rest of the stuff, so it doesn't look like a cheap cafe. And that, I think, is up to each architect how they do it. Like I showed you, the Prestige office had a very strict, opulent, design brief. But what we did was kept a few things exposed, hid a lot of things. So we were able to achieve that balance between it looking glamorous and fun at the same time. So yeah, so the challenges actually are not so much from the client, but it is more from the structure, from the services industry, because those guys are very used to, first there'll be the beams, the sprinkler guy is the biggest pain to work with, because he would want to, drop his pipes in one straight line. Nobody wants to go in and out. Then under him will come the AC guy, then under him will come the lighting guy. So if you go to see in these high-end buildings, 3 to 4 feet just get lost in the ceiling straight away, because nobody wants to make the effort of resolving no overlaps,
Yeah.
So you need to, as a designer, take that on and spend a lot of time initially with coordinating between all these multiple agencies to make sure that you get as much ceiling height that a place can offer.
Well, what's also interesting is that, on one hand, you're talking about it logistically, where you're trying to fit all the different pieces of the puzzle together with the consultants and the various services, but it also becomes an opportunity to be an artistic expression, right? From your part, it could become something that is representative of the client. We very often see that cables are sort of snaking around the ceiling or walls in a specific pattern, or the way you've covered the duct with, it could be whether it's rope or it's fabric or it's painted. So these become opportunities for the services to become a part of the architectural expression as well.
100%, 100%. And I think all those examples that I picked kind of highlight what the services can do for a building. And that's the whole idea, I guess, of this presentation also, right? To make you start thinking of services in an exciting way.
Yeah.
And honestly, my design philosophy is not to create problems, but to start and work with the existing problems on site to get the best possible outcome.
And I think also what's been important, and I see that in a lot of your projects, is that looking at problems not as problems, right? Looking at them as opportunities to do something different and to really kind of think outside the box, to innovate and to try experiment with different ideas and concepts.
Yeah, so honestly, if you're given a white paper and said design a house with absolutely no constraints, it becomes very, very difficult and challenging. In fact, if you take clues from site or your existing situation, you will actually get clues to how you should start a design.
Absolutely. I think this would be a good good point to kind of move further, because I know there are a lot of really interesting things that we're talking about. We're almost kind of walking through a building and talking about its different components that can be addressed.
All right, so next up is the staircase. as you can see here, the staircase has been used to highlight a space instead of hiding it in a corner or back of house somewhere. Okay, so it's literally a folded metal plate with the perforations where the light filters through like like poetry. And the entire staircase is ensconced between these two exposed concrete walls that frame the Duke's nose in the background, which is highlight point in the design. So that's one way to do staircases, where you use it as a sculptural feature. This is, again, it's easier when you're starting from scratch. It's an architecture project and everything is up to you. But this is a duplex apartment in Bombay, where thankfully the builder did not give us, they give you a typical layout where they have a lift in the middle, lift well in the middle, and they have concrete steps winding around it. And it becomes very challenging to do anything with it. So thankfully over here, they hadn't built anything. They just had two retaining walls in case the client wanted to put in an elevator. But she didn't need it. And so we had an opportunity again to do something fun. So we hung these really amazing, huge brass bells all the way from the top. So it's a lovely feature when you enter. And around that, the staircase was this light wooden staircase that we wound around the lift well, and we split it so you could go to the arrival point or you could get off towards the living room. And on the floor above we have a glass floor actually that connects the left side of the house to the right side. So you can do so much with staircases. It doesn't necessarily have to be a boring it's actually a very exciting feature for me. And then, of course, if you want storage under it, there is a whole go down full of things under this staircase. There is a fridge, there is an air conditioner, there is the entire music system back of house, and one more fun thing. So there you go. That's my culmination of this staircase chapter.
That's really exciting, Apoorva, because it's not only about, it kind of like brings both things together, the idea of circulation and the idea of storage, which are two very prominent things that people struggle with in designing, especially homes, right? Because we're always looking for more storage and we always need more space to put things away, but you're always kind of wondering what to do with the staircase. What's really exciting is also staircases now are not necessarily just, or for that matter, not just staircases, any sort of circulation space is not just a transition space, right? And again, there are opportunities to look at them as destinations. I really enjoy the previous slide where you literally have a window in the hallway. So these become moments of pause where you can reflect, not only out of a window in a wall, but also look at how these spaces start to connect within in the interiors itself.
Yeah. True. And they're all opportunities for better design. You can cover it up and hide it and put it at the back of the house, but there are lots of buildings now that, accentuate the fire escape, like a feature, external feature of the building. And I think it's really important to start using all these little tidbits that a building needs to actually start using them as features that you can ornament your building with.
But also interestingly, and in these two examples, you've shown the staircase being built with two very different materials, right? Which themselves become like pieces of art. So if you see this, which is a really lightweight, very thin profile, very sort of like, it's almost like a line drawing that's going up the wall. But if you see the next example, they're like these very sort of, again, they're these light, almost, they look like objects. They look like these frames that are projecting from the wall that you can walk up on. So again, it's not only about using that space, but the staircase itself can become artistic and these design elements.
True. And these are examples of just that, right?
Yeah. Great. So should we go ahead? Where does the staircase lead us next?
The staircase leads you to the backyard.
Perfect.
So the backyard of the house again is something that most people struggle with, okay? And I'm going to show you something really fun. So this is a house that we're working in Delhi. It's Amrita Shergill Marg, one of like Delhi's highest end areas. And the house actually is of a very modest size, and they were struggling with space. But that area is particularly finicky with FSI consumption and things like that. And so what we did here was put up a pergola that has fins that can close and open. So the top has these moving, rotating pergolas. So when you want the comfort of a cozy indoor space, you close them off, and you have blinds on the edge where they're actually weatherproof. So you can close that off as well and run the air conditioner. Or in Delhi's winter, when it's lovely weather, you can open the whole thing up, use start up the fireplace, and it just feels like an extension to your home. So this was the back of house, this is the back of house of one of the projects that we're working on currently. And another section to the same house, which is attached to the master bedroom. Again, the rooms were really tiny, so we have a little bit of a seating area outside the room facing the garden with a jacuzzi on the side and a swing, and you have this beautiful indoor-outdoor feel to it.
So it's interesting because the backyard is no more just a backyard, right? What used to be earlier, traditionally, a backyard used to be some place where you keep things, where you it's more utilitarian, right? It was more to store things or to grow plants or maybe have a kitchen garden. But today, the backyard has become an extension of the interiors itself. And this is a prime example of that. Even the way you talk about how you can enclose it to make it a closed space, make it a part of the home. It's interesting to see how you're literally kind of enclosing that space and bringing it in. So the backyard doesn't.
So again, sorry to interrupt, but it just highlights what I'm trying to say, that it comes from a necessity for space. If I had a really large house, I wouldn't go and suggest this to the client, right? Then I would really keep it green and keep it, like you said, grow plants, or just have a water feature or something like that. But because these guys need space, you think of innovative ways of how to give it to them. So it just literally stems from the need more than anything else.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because and we've had these kind of questions in the past, right? A lot of us who are, when we show like these large, expensive projects, then you don't have that dearth of space. But today, real estate is a luxury, right? The spaces are becoming smaller and tighter and more expensive. How do you start to deal with spaces like that? What are the biggest challenges that you have? So when somebody wants the idea of a backyard, but doesn't have the opportunity, then that becomes a challenge for you to sort of provide them with at least a sense of a space, of an outdoor space, right?
Yeah, so I think post-COVID, this need for multifunctional spaces has just completely taken over everybody's lives. I have that section covered a little towards the end, actually, so maybe we can talk about that at that point. But yeah, the need for more or to make the most of what you have is foremost, no matter COVID or not, especially if you're from Bombay, your apartments here are matchbox size, and everybody wants everything. So you as an architect have to figure out how to give them the most. In fact, for me, I think the first project that I designed that was really large was a 40,000 square foot house, okay? And I really struggled initially. I was like, how many cupboards can I put? Like, how does this make sense? but you have to just proportionately work with the space that you have been given. If it's small, it's
Absolutely.
small. Like you put everything on top of each other, and layer large, you spread out.
But it's also, like you said, and I know we get this Bombay Delhi debate on our sessions very often, especially because Sneha's from Bombay and I'm from Delhi, and we've got like different perspectives on the idea of space, right? But also, what's really interesting to me is that how a lot of people are using their backyard, right? Like we said, as an extension of their internal spaces. But the idea of a backyard, which used to be earlier to store things or to grow, herbs and vegetables like a kitchen garden, is now coming inwards, right? So there's this transition from the outside is coming inwards in the sense that you're enclosing spaces that are outside, yet keeping them open. But you're also like these little kitchen gardens are turning into pots and plants that are hooked onto people's balconies or sitting in their kitchens and in little, really nice little planters and displays, right? Um, and the fact that you're bringing nature in, right? Today, it's
Mrinalini, it's funny when you spoke of that. I thought of two people who, both Bombay. One is Ranbir Kapoor, and the other is Pinakin, whose house I just went to. While most bikers extend their homes into the balconies and enclosed balconies, so it's more space for the room. Both these people actually went the reverse way, where they extended their balconies into their homes because they wanted a little more of the outdoors instead of being in. I saw Pinakin's house recently and I loved it. But we had done the same for Ranbir, and it was a request from the client. So I think it's a very personal thing. If you have the space, like Ranbir was living by himself at that point. I mean, it was a project I did when I was at Red. And he didn't mind losing that little bit of living room space and his balcony. So these are very personal, client-related things, not necessarily Delhi, Bombay.
it's interesting because I saw a friend's post on Instagram and she said, I am now at that age where I cherish seeing plants in my bathroom survive, right? And so this is what, right? It is personal, but we're trying to, I think it's also a growing trend where people want to see more plants inside. They're trying to, because, spaces are getting smaller and more sparse. We're trying to kind of introduce that or whatever that comfort it is of nature in interior spaces, and finding opportunities to do that, right? So a backyard can be brought in through various elements. It could be a little plant on your windowsill for that matter, right? But it becomes an element. That's something that you look at, something that kind of eases out your pain, for the lack of it, and introduces some life to the space, I guess.
True, true, true. Shall we continue?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, my favorite one. So a fun fact about the bathroom. Apparently, the average person spends close to 3 years sitting in the bathroom. Did you know that?
I had no
Anyway.
idea.
So this is how we evolved. This is an image of the Roman latrine system, where there were benches with holes on the top, where you parked your ass and let loose. There was a constant flow of water coursing through the under system that flushed away your excreta. But this is how rudimentary it was. And then, of course, there were the chamber pots that kings and queens used to have. And this is how the bathrooms have evolved from this to our sophisticated plumbing system. And I had to throw this in, the plumbing in space. It took NASA 6 years and 23 million to come up with this design of this high-tech potty. And, in the absence of gravity, space toilets use airflow to pull urine and feces away from the body and into proper receptacles.
Wow.
Right? From where to where. And now to the lit bathrooms. Okay, so of course, we would love for every space to be multifunctional so you can make the most of it, right? And if you have the space, then we would love to give you this really luxurious bathroom where we try and combine the dressing areas with the shower facilities. The man of the house here really objected. He was like, you can give me a study, you can give me another bedroom. Why do I need such a huge wardrobe? But convincing the lady of the house was really not hard. And so you have almost 600 square feet here, but it's very well utilized. And now that they're using the space, they absolutely love it. At the bottom green is the shower area with the basins in front. There's a little patch of green in the middle that keeps the air always pure. And there's an island dressing in the middle for her, and there are wardrobes surrounding the entire space on all sides. This is the way it looks, where you see the basins on one side and the dressing area on the other. This is another apartment in Bombay. Again, they required a bathtub, but I say do a bathtub only if there's a really lovely view. So what we did here was there was a beautiful view of the Blue Mosque, and we have these sliding doors again that come and shut the bathroom off, or when you want to use a bathtub, you can open up the entire bathroom to the bedroom. Beyond that is the bathroom area, and then you have a little more modest dressing area. This is the view of the same, where you can see from the bathroom the view beyond, and the view of the bathroom on the bathtub on the right side. Again, a bathroom that is fabulous when you have a lot of space, his and her, especially, you may think it's luxury, but when the husband and wife are both working and the morning hours are really busy and everybody wants to be there first, it's absolutely useful, where not only do they have his and her basins, beyond, the doors go into the shower area, where on the left is her side and on the right is his side. And opposite this is her dressing area, where again the thumb rule is men get a quarter of what the woman needs. It's a joke, but the entire left side is a walk-in wardrobe for her, and the clothes shutters that you see here are the husband's clothes. Again, if you have the luxury of designing from scratch, then I would say use green as much as you can. So the bedroom here is planned around, this is Airavat again, but the bedroom here is planned around a center green patch. I'll show you images of the same, but there's a here. So, the shower and the WC are sandwiched between two patches of green. The typical other guest bedrooms have little courtyards that give light to the bathrooms at their own level and scale. This is a view of the master bathroom, where you can see that little patch of green with the basins overlooking the same, and a skylight above it. And this is a view of the other bathroom with the courtyard, that just beautifully just doubles up the feeling of space, So when in doubt, and when possible, just close your eyes and give a courtyard if you can. All right, this is a legendary bathroom again, designed and executed during my time at Red. But they had 20 feet ceilings, okay? And what do you do if you have 20 feet ceilings? You want to make the most of space. So the shower is in the center, okay? And you have a double-heighted wardrobe with a glass floor in the middle. If you can see in the corner, there is a platform lift that takes you up to this glass floor, so you can access your clothes at the second layer also without ladders and stools and things like that. So this is like next level.
I'm already getting comments. Apoorva is saying that some of your bathrooms are the size of like Bombay apartments or Delhi for that matter.
Yeah, this was that house that I told you, how many clothes can I put? But I kid you not, the person, when they moved in, within one day, her wardrobe was this full. This is taken like a week of moving in. All right. So this is again showing you that smaller bathrooms can also be fun, where it's again a typical Bombay-sized bathroom, but it looks big for a couple of reasons. One is the use of mirror. It's got a funky tap from the ceiling. It's just making it a little more playful, and it's not got this bulky storage and things that take away and make a space look small. And on the right side was a small bathroom. But what we chose to do is break the wall between the bedroom and the bathroom. Bathroom is now a lot larger than what we got. We get this sliver of light into the bathroom. And the bedroom is not badly sized, but you can also work the other way, where you take, you give, you do these things to work with what the client wants. These are powder bathrooms, again, smallish Bombay wala powder bathrooms, but each powder bathroom can, reflect the client's personality. One wanted gold, one wanted elegant, one wanted simple, mosaics, all possibilities with powder bathrooms. And these are my favorite kind of bathrooms, where it's sadly not my project. It's from the internet, but I'm thinking AI is going to take us in these directions. But I would not I would not do fake stuff. I'm just trying to say that the best kind of bathrooms are those that are set in nature. And if you have the opportunity to actually work with nature, then just keep it really simple, minimalistic, and use what you got instead of creating problems and creating scenes and scenarios that do not exist. So I think that's my bathroom section for you. You can shoot away your questions.
I think, well, what is really striking is that of all the examples that you've shown, right, no two are similar. And which comes to what we were talking about a little earlier, is this idea of these kind of spaces starting to represent the people who own them, right? So they can become places where you can start to, either they become artistic expressions or architectural gestures, or they just start to represent the client's personality. And you mentioned that as well. And I find that really interesting. Like even now, right? You walk into people's houses, for example, and bathrooms were always like this sort of shady little corner of the house where, it's always like it's the last resort, right? You only go there if you absolutely have to. But today, bathrooms are, they've become opportunities for people to show who they are. Whether they're tech savvy, whether they're grounded in terms of material, do they want to do, glass talks about something else, floral talks about something else. And it's interesting. So would you like to talk to us a little bit about like the different personalities that have come about or have been expressed in the various bathrooms and powder rooms that you've been designing?
So yeah, for sure, powder rooms give you that opportunity, to work with what the client would showcase, like, whether it's
It's a
their,
window into their world, right? In a way.
it's basically the glamour quotient of the house, right? Because most people are not going to walk into your master bedroom, but everybody is going to go into your powder bathroom. So that's where everybody wants to show off. They want to, their most expensive fittings. I mean, it doesn't matter how modest you are, the powder bathroom in the house is the most glamorous, that's for sure. And I mean, we could be guilty of that too, where you just automatically lead the client towards that kind of design. And it is an opportunity not to be missed, because again, most powder bathrooms don't require a shower section. So it's not very wet. So you can play with wallpapers, you can play with veneer, you can play with, you're not just restricted to waterproof using marbles and tiles and things like that, So it definitely gives you a larger opportunity for good design, and it should not be wasted. So that being said, they are usually pretty small in size, and the master bathroom is where you have the opportunity to, give the client a little bit of luxury, because at the end of the day, it's their house, and you want them to experience space and a bedroom and just double that up into wardrobe space. No matter how much they protest, I think you should try and encourage them and push them towards making that call, because everybody will thank you later for that little extra cupboard space.
We're actually getting a lot of comments on challenges in designing a smaller bathroom, right? Because a lot of the examples that you've shown have been these large, luxurious spaces. But what are some of the challenges that appear or emerge when you're designing smaller spaces, right? Spaces where you can't, for example, fit in closets, or you don't have the opportunity to have walk-in closets and things like that. So maybe some hacks.
Sorry, so I definitely think, like I said, if there is no space, then yes, you can't do much. You just have to work with what you've been given. Mirrors is a very, very, very nice, fun way to to give the illusion of space. We almost always, no matter how big or small the bathroom is, the reverse side of the door is always a full height mirror, because whether it's a guest or it's you whose bathroom it is, everybody wants to check themselves out. And it's not always just the face. You want to see how you're looking. So the reverse side of the door should almost always be a full length mirror. And then there's lighting that plays a really huge role. So even if it's a small bathroom, like I said, if there's natural light, it automatically looks larger. Even if, there is a duct behind, like actually, so one of those examples here, there was a duct behind, right? But we've put a stained glass.
Yeah.
So you get natural light and you cut the view. You can even put fake plants also behind that. So it gives you that little illusion of a green patch behind the glass,
Right.
And that also, the minute you put a plant, that it just lifts the feel of a space. So don't hide the window, do a large window, put a frosted glass or a stained glass, and put a plant behind. It can be a fake plant that requires no maintenance, but that shadow, that play of light of those leaves or whatever coming through will transform the way your bathroom is. Also, face lighting, very important. Don't have a light on top, because that just, your nose, everything just casts these shadows on your face. It's very important to have face lights in the front, so you see yourself properly in the mirror. And these are a few key tips for working bathrooms, big or small.
Also different materials, right? Different materials and your color palette in the bathroom. Lighter materials and lighter palettes will make the space look bigger, and reflective surfaces.
Again, if it's a small bathroom, I say don't use more than two materials, because you have like this hodgepodge of materials going on. It's very distracting. Large prints, very distracting. It takes away from the space. Just keep it as clean and as simple as possible, and you can't go wrong.
Perfect. Should we head on to our next favorite section?
All right.
Half of the home.
The kitchen. Oh, sorry. I don't know. Just added a slide. Yeah. So again, the evolution of the kitchen and how people used to actually cook outside in the open with fire and things like that. And this is actually not so long ago. In my grandma's home in Mangalore, I actually remember her cooking like this with fire for us. And her daughter-in-law, I think till not so long ago, was still cooking the same way. But let's talk about the lit kitchen, right? So I think planning is sacrosanct. It doesn't matter, what size of kitchen you have. The way you plan it is what makes or breaks it. And this is Khandala again. So we had the opportunity to plan for a really lovely kitchen that was very useful. A kitchen should most definitely always have service access, where staff can come in and out without disturbing the main house, where groceries, utilities, etc. can come in. I think most homes, even Bombay homes today, have a staff entry and a main entry that's separate. In this kitchen, what's most important also when you have space is to have a pantry where you can store items that you don't need on a regular basis. Again, most homes today have a small storage room so that you can dump, all the things that you don't need on a regular basis there. Most important again. And of course, keep, depending on the space that you have, keep a good distance between your washing, your cooking, and your fridge area. I mean, everybody knows that triangular rule where you place the three opposite each other, and the circulation of the kitchen will work brilliantly, right? So this is the Airabat kitchen, the way it looks. Again, materials are all very simple, but the working of the kitchen is brilliant, especially because it's a large home and there is a lot of cooking that goes on in this kitchen. This is an apartment, again, the same apartment that I showed you earlier in Mumbai, where it's a smaller size kitchen, right? But here I've shown you how to do an indoor and like an island kitchen, as well as if you have the luxury. We had a small pantry behind over here, but we were then able to do the main cooking over there on that side and then make this look a little more designer, where then the lady of the house can actually be, if she's cooking, she can actually be a part of the family meals instead of being tucked away in the back of the house. And this is how the home looks, where we actually have a glass screen that comes down and closes this off also. So if you wanted a larger kitchen and you have, people making noise in there, you can close that off. There's a fun video to show you. So that's the kitchen, and there is another one actually. Sorry, this is actually a project that I just finished, and a reel that nobody has seen as yet. So I'm sharing it with you. Would probably go up today. But actually, the nice thing about this one was that what happens here is that she gets to use that island in front without at all times. So when the kitchen is being used by staff, she can close it off and use that island, and that island can also be used for a buffet service and things like that, So yeah, sorry.
I think we're getting a couple of comments. If you could play the previous video again, which a lot of people are finding very fascinating.
The one.
This one. So we actually have a question, and someone's asking, how does the glass light up? This is Anand Desai.
Again, something that we fabricated, where the motor is a heavy duty motor that takes the weight of the glass. It works the same principle as that of your like blinds, like the. So if you see, what you need though is the space. I had the ceiling height here, so it literally just goes up straight and gets stacked in this part. Okay,
it's more like a door almost, but vertically.
It's a curtain, but it's glass.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
So I think the kitchen is especially exciting for this session because that's probably one of the most popular spaces today that have transformed, right? That has kind of seen a very drastic evolution. Like you mentioned, your the traditional sort of sitting on the floor and cooking on an open fire, to something to houses that are predominantly fed by staff that is cooking, and again is kind of considered more back of house. But now you yourself mentioned that you've got a project where the lady of the house is cooking, but she also wants to be a part of what is happening over there right now. While it may be that she's cooking while others are eating, so she wants to have that interaction. But also very often now what happens is that cooking has become a social activity, right? Where you call people over and you want to cook while you're socializing with people. You might end up eating together, but even the act of cooking is an active social activity, right? Where solutions like these, where you can transform your space, becomes really important, because then when you have people and you want to cook on your own, you can interact with them. You have that island or a counter that you can speak across. And at the same time, when you don't want that, you have the option of closing it down and using it in different ways.
100%. And I mean, you can see that it's working.
Absolutely. I think also what's an important question over here, and especially in our context, in the Indian context, is the fact that Indian food can tend to be a little noisy and also has very intense smells. So that's a recurring question in, how do you kind of contain that? And is that really a challenge?
So in this one, because we've opened the entire corner, we weren't able to put a frame around the glass, because if we put a frame around the glass, then it would defeat the purpose, right? That it would not work. But I mean, the frame also requires space to move up and down, so there would always be a gap. But in the next one that I showed you, because it's framed between two,
Within, yeah.
then that thing can be soundproof as well, because when the goes down, it goes into a channel that has good. You can have, what are those dust? You have seals on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. So it's a properly sealed space then. You can seal off the kitchen
Yes,
acoustically and for smells and sight and all of that, right?
and it's. I mean, we recommend having a really good chimney above, your gas, so
Sure.
that.
Someone's asking, Ashok Kumar is asking, can we have switchable glass? I'm not sure what you mean by switchable, but I think this gives you an opportunity to also experiment with different material, different kinds of glass.
Yeah. So switchable glass is something that I've used a lot, but I've not used it for kitchens as such.
Hmm.
I've used it more for bathrooms and where you get the privacy, right? And if it's a powder bathroom and it's glamorous, then you don't have to close it off all the time, right?
Right.
With a kitchen, I don't see why I would want switchable glass, because if I'm not, I mean, if I'm trying to hide something, yeah, but I could never then move it. It would
Hmm.
always permanently be there. I would just get privacy when, and
I
that's.
guess that would just be a very different solution for a different problem, right? Like if you want the transition to be more about if it's more of a visual issue, then you can probably use switchable glass. But here what you're talking about is also the way that you use a kitchen and how you're interacting with the non-kitchen spaces.
Yeah, here I think what the glass does, it gives you the opportunity to be a part of the living room or not. With the switchable glass, you would always be in a separate room. You would just have like visual connection. That's all.
Yeah. So which actually leads well into the next section, because we're talking about how the kitchen, and especially in the next slide, this one, slide 53, how that becomes like a multi-utility space, right? So when the partition is down, you still have an island that can be used for people, which is not a part of the kitchen. And when you open it up, it becomes a part of the kitchen.
Correct. That's exactly my point. I mean, there are two examples of moving glass, but one completely encloses the kitchen into a separate space altogether. But here you do always have the option of an island outside.
Hmm.
It actually doubles up as a bar and can also be used as a buffet counter. So it has, again, a multi-utilitarian function.
Yeah.
So I think we're pressed for time now, no? Happily, we've been chatting away.
Yeah, I think, well, we're coming close to the end, but sure.
This is the last segment anyway. So this is SoftBank, and sorry, I had to ask you at this point, what do you think this space is? Well,
Oh no.
since we don't have time, I'll just quickly tell you what
Yeah,
it is.
please. It takes me out of the spot at least.
So this is actually an office, and thankfully they didn't need a typical office space where you have cubicles, you have rooms, you have workstations. They have all of that also, but they had the luxury of space again. And what we did with this beautiful double height space was make it like design it like a cafe,
Hmm.
where surrounding it are all the Zoom rooms, and people can actually then, when they take breaks, come out into this open space and have a cup of coffee, or they can do informal meetings, or they can meet people that are not work related also in this space. So it's an office that doubles up as a cafeteria, and it works brilliantly. So an example of a multifunctional space. Another video for you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride to the liquor store around the corner. The boys say they want some gin and juice, but I really don't wanna be a buzz like I had last week. I must stay because talk is cheap. I like Angela.
So here, what it does is actually opens up the living room to the den, right? Again, in Bombay City, where you do not have space, it gives you the option of a bedroom or a den that can be soundproof actually to run movies. And when you don't need that, you can open up those doors. And actually, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hardware. It turns around the corner, if you noticed, and goes and stacks in one small, it takes up a really small space where it stacks up, and it's completely out of the way. Most of these times sliding doors are big, bulky, and they are constantly in the way. So that's one. This next one is from the internet, but
easy now, no need to go down. Rock that run, that this how we from. Easy now, no need to go down. Easy now, no need to go down. Rock that run, that this how we from.
And here you can see it's again like a studio apartment where they've utilized, they have a bed, they have a study desk, and everybody who's short of space today is mesmerized by videos like this. They just go viral.
Easy now.
And at another level, it doesn't necessarily just have to be at that large scale. I mean, these furniture pieces, things like that, where people are trying to save space, make it utilitarian, where they can turn around and go to sleep if they spend a lot of time at work. And
what's also really exciting about hacks like these ones is that every hack or every solution doesn't have to be tech driven, right? A lot of them are just smart solutions and smartly designed solutions that are not necessarily high tech.
Exactly, 100% true. And these are actually some of the more beautiful pieces that you see and admire. And I'm going to finish with this last funky one. Again, not my design. James Bond for you.
Oh God, that's the perfect sort of slide to end on. I don't even know what to say beyond that. So I'm going to take this opportunity to bring in some questions instead, because I'm a little sort of stumped with that one. But we've had, I mean, well, before I get into that, Apoorva, this has been the most sort of informative and entertaining at the same time presentation. We've obviously got a lot of questions. Some are actually technical, right, in terms of the kind of hardwares that you're using and whether you're using these sliding folding doors on a single track or how that is done. So would you like to, so we've got Ashok Kumar saying that, is it a single track sliding folding hardware? I'm assuming that's for the lounge.
It's single track, and if you notice, there is no track at the bottom.
Yeah.
Really, it's only above.
Yeah.
And you get them automated today. If you have no dearth for money, then you can actually automate it. I was doing it manually. And it's a Hawa fitting. And of course, they can all reach out to me, separately, and I'll be happy to answer the technical questions.
Yeah. Vaishali is also asking about the services plan of the HVAC. So I think this is probably for the office. So I'm not sure. Would you like to kind of cycle back to that, or if Vaishali, if you want to also get in touch with Apoorva later, you can chat with her. I know that Apoorva is very open to taking questions and interacting with our audience later. So
I mean, go back to that slide, but it'll be difficult to, I think, answer her question, right? Here.
if there are any specific questions, then you can also, like I said, you can get in touch with Apoorva on social media. Apoorva, do you think that's a good platform for people to contact you? Perfect. I actually wanted to, I said, one is the non-tech solutions, which become very important, because I think when we talk about smart design, and this is a misnomer that smart equals technology, there are, and you've shown a lot of these solutions and architectural gestures that you can do without sort of relying on high technology, right? It can be low-tech, good design, low-tech, smart design as well. And I think that is something that is definitely worth highlighting. And also, cost implications, right? Like we talked about large spaces and small spaces, but not every solution that is smart needs to be expensive, right? So would you, and we've got a couple of questions sort of in this direction. So would you like to share some, like you did with the bathrooms, sort of certain sort of secrets or tips that you have for creating smart spaces, perhaps with storage, perhaps with kitchen, which are not necessarily very high on the pocket?
Honestly, I'll just go back to what I said earlier, that smart design comes from solving for problems on site instead of creating new problems by trying to act smart.
That needs to be quoted. So it's a good thing that this is being recorded because we're going to go back on that.
I might ask you for the recording because I myself may not remember what I just said.
That was a very smart thing to have said. Let me just say that.
So just go back to the actual genuine problems on site and you will find economic ways, or the entire project will suddenly become economical if you're solving for the problems that you have. So it's just the biggest tip I can give anybody.
Yeah. In fact, Sneha has a question and she's talking about, well, she says, love the presentation. She said there's so many clever ideas to encounter in both big and small spaces, but she wants to ask you about product innovations, especially in the kitchen and bath space, right? So, for example, some brands have launched a new range of sinks with steamers, again, right? So quick and smart solutions. But what products and technologies are there that are currently exciting you? What are you hoping to experiment with next?
So, honestly, I think the most amount of knowledge that I get today, what's new out there, is through Instagram. You follow a few of these people who, go out there. I'm guilty, not guilty, whatever. I do it also, but I learn from Instagram, just like I'm sure you guys do. There are these super funky sinks, okay,
Right.
and where you have like 100 different functions. With hot and cold is the most redundant function now. You have the glass washing, the like that spray, the this, the that, like a simple basic sink, and I honestly never thought that people would fall for these things. But this last house that I did, the lady of the house was a huge Instagram junkie. She would just keep showing me videos. I want this, I want this, I want this. And and it opened up my mind as well. Once I installed it in the house, I actually realized that it's very useful, and it's not necessarily just gimmicky. So, sorry, have I lost you? Oh, Sneha, did I lose her?
Yeah, I think Pranani is going to join back, but yes, you can continue, Apoorva. Yeah, I completely agree that a lot of ideas and inspirations may come from Instagram, but yeah, it's very curious to know how you how you firstly cater to such demands, and some of them are, I
Client
think,
today
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
informed, and it's best to just keep an open mind and go with it, and actually explore what they are looking at, because they're also doing a lot of research that you can just easily benefit from. And it has worked out well for me, and I think that sink was one of my favorite things. Another really fun thing was planning the laundry areas, because you have these things that dry clothes that go up out of your way, then you have a sink on the side to wash clothes that you want to hand wash, things like that if you plan better, it doesn't mean that it's high technology, it's just very, very useful. And of course, bathroom though is next level, right? There is endless amounts of showers. And if I go, I will be confused. I won't know what to, every time I go with a client, there's a new product and they'll ask me, what do you recommend? I'm like, huh? मुझे नहीं पता.
So might as well go with what the client has to recommend, and see how you can then design around that. Yeah.
Right. And I'm hoping that they stand by it, that, 1 year later, the client doesn't come back and slap me for suggesting it.
I think this is something that we've been emphasizing from the first session on, right? Especially in this season, is that smart design is about making smart choices at the end of the day, right? And you have to make choices that are appropriate to your problem or whatever the concern that you're addressing. And I think that's something that you've showcased throughout the presentation, whether it's whether it's kitchens or electricals or bathrooms or even hallways and staircases, is that these are all opportunities to look at things differently, to innovate, to think out of the box, to design in different ways, right? And technology is a tool to do that. And even your restrictions become a sort of, they kind of like push you in a direction, like we say, right? Necessity breeds innovation in a certain sense.
Thinking of that at some point, it just didn't come to me.
But Apoorva, I know we've kind of run over time, but getting so many questions, so many comments, and your presentation is being described as amazing, informative, mesmerizing. So I hope that sort of allays all your concerns. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with us this evening. And thank you so much for a very, very insightful, a very exciting, and very informative, as well as entertaining, I must say, presentation. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sure a lot of us have had a lot of fun, but we walk away with a lot of ideas and a lot of sort of food for thought, for what can be done and how things can be addressed. So thank you once again, Apoorva, for being here tonight with us.
I thoroughly enjoyed myself, as nervous, or not nervous, but as apprehensive as I was. But I really enjoyed it. And I think the flow just went naturally because I was conversing with you. And I myself was entertained looking at my slides. So it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Before we sign off for the evening, we do have a feedback form for our audience and people who've signed in. So we would love for you to tell us what you think of these conversations, what are the subjects you would like for us to discuss, and also the people that you would like to hear from. So please do share your feedback. Do fill out that form. It's a really tiny form. Will take just a minute of your time, and we will be back with more information about the upcoming season. This actually wraps up season 2 for us. So Purva, thank you for kind of, bringing it all to a culmination. And we look forward to having you back with us in the following seasons. So please do.
I think she froze again.
Yeah, I think Mrinalini's frozen again, but right on cue. Mrinalini, are you back?
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. See, I'm having technology problems. This is what it is, right?
No, Viri, you ended and you ended perfectly, Mrinalini.
All right, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.